Well, you know what that song means. It means it's time for DBA710 Management and Leadership Approaches, and we are in the week 3 assignments. So if you're present and ready to get started, please raise your hand. Okay, everybody's ready to go. So we're going to move right on to the discussion post because that's the only assignment for week 3. You have some readings to do to upgrade your knowledge about the subject that we're going to be talking about. And the subject for this week is culture and how culture is going to affect leadership. Now you're to use 2 additional peer-reviewed journal articles in addition to what's supplied to you to support your ideas. You can also use some of your experience, but it's important that you describe first what the experts who've studied this for their entire lives, their entire professional lives, have to say about the subject before you chime in with your opinions on the subject. Okay, I want to hear, how your experience and opinions relate to what we're talking about. But first, you have to demonstrate that you know what the experts have said. The issue of culture kind of takes 2 different directions, and I think it's worth talking about them a little bit separately. Normally in management writing and leadership writing, when we discuss cultures, it's broken into 2 separate categories. One is what's referred to as a national culture, and this relates to things that make countries different from one country to another. Why is Mexico have a different culture than the United States, and why does South Africa have a different culture than China? Okay, well, there's a number of different things that have been identified. They speak different languages, they eat different types of food, they enjoy different types of music, they have a different legal system, political system, monetary system, and a researcher back in the 70s, Gerd Hofstede, wrote some papers and books about this called The Cultural Dimensions, and you may be familiar with this. If not, you'll become more familiar as we work through the class and also in future classes. So national culture is one of the areas that you'll be reading about, but also there's another thing called organizational culture, and that's things that make organizations unique. And it's not just, how big they are or what type of products they make. It's really the sense of the way things are done. How do people dress normally? Is it a very formal place that requires 3-piece suits, or is it a place that allows polo shirts and khakis? And we have a variety of different companies that are equally successful and do it different ways, but they have different cultures. The degree of formality, the degree of power centralization, when we talk about empowerment, some companies, some organizations empower their employees, others don't empower their employees, and they may work equally well. The sense of ethics, what are the right things to do and what are the wrong things to do? Do we just follow the letter of the law, or do we actually step out of our way to make things better? So there's a variety of different organizational cultures, and again, those are important when we talk about leadership, because leaders have to work within the environment of their organizational culture. And now that we have global organizations, leaders also have to work within a variety of national cultures, which makes things a little more complicated, but also a little more interesting. Okay, so that's your assignment for this week. For your discussion posts are to talk about culture. You can talk about both national, organizational. You can pick one or the other. But it's important to kind of distinguish which one that you're talking about. Okay, the keys to success for this week. I think it's important to look ahead to the future assignments. In week number 4, you're going to be writing another paper, not a huge one, but a little bit longer, that describes some of the major issues that researchers in the field are dealing with. And as you work through the research of this week and look up your library readings and your additional outside sources, these, again, you should be cataloging, because you're going to find when you go back to write the paper, a lot of the things that you've already addressed in the discussion posts and last week's paper are going to be things that you can use in the new paper. Okay, it's kind of building upon what you've already done, and it's important to kind of learn how to do that in an effective fashion. The other thing that I'd like to see is more outside references when you're in your discussion posts. Now, you're doing it in your initial posts. You have good references there as you explain how you see the particular topic that we're discussing. However, when it comes to outside or to the response posts, we're getting much more into, well, I think this and I think that, which is fine. It's fine that you think that, but remember, you have to become an authority to sort of say that your opinion counts more than what the experts in the field say about it. So, saying in my experience, I think leaders must take into account the organization's culture. Well, you may actually think that, but it doesn't carry much credibility outside of your own personal thinking. So we all have our own opinions, but the difference between a layperson and an academic is the academic's opinions are based upon knowing what the research says. So to say the same thing, but saying it according to Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, organizational culture is one of the main causes of ineffective leadership. Fiedler also dealt with culture in his contingency theory. Now you're allowed to say, well, this is what I think, or this is what I've experienced. I've also experienced that when this happens. Now you can illustrate the concept that the theories are talking about by your own experience. Okay, you can use it to illustrate what the concept is, which demonstrates that you really do understand it. So I think both of these are important, but I've found that we're having good discussions, but we're kind of losing the expert's opinion on these subjects. So I'd like to see a little bit more coming back with a reference or two in your response post to show that yes, you have an opinion, you agree or disagree, but it's based upon what the experts, what the authorities in the field say about it, rather than what you think about it. Well, that's about it for week 3. Again, I'm pleased with the way the class is going. The discussions are good. I haven't had a chance to look at your papers yet, but I'll be getting those back to you as soon as I can. You know how to reach me if you have any questions, so until next week, goodbye and good luck.